Jon, so great, man, to have you on the show. Sean Buck, you know Sean, he my partner in Level Method, and he was just out visiting you. And after I was talking to him, we have these meetings every week, and we're talking, and I was super excited to get you on here so we could chat about business, chat about life, and whatever else comes up. So let's hop in and just start with a little bit of your personal history. I've read through, I'm familiar with it, but I think just to familiarize everyone with how you got sort of where you are today, like as a gym owner in business and all of that.
Sure. Well, I started my adult life a little earlier than most. I had my first child when I was 16 years old, and I was graciously put out of the house by my dad. Everything's cool now. We're on good terms and all that, but I had to grow up really quick, and there was not a lot of opportunity or time to be selfish in what I wanted out of life. You just got to start paying bills and stuff. Moved around quite a bit. Got settled back in the Nashville area, started working for Gibson Guitar for a long time, almost 13 years. And I just, the typical blue collar daily grind. I was also a pretty small guy. I was like 130 pounds, like skin and bones. And I kind of dealt with a lot of insecurity, self-esteem issues and all that. And me and a friend of mine, actually Ryan Stemper from Whole Strength CrossFit, who turned me on to Level Method. We'll get into that too. But we kind of found CrossFit together. We started doing it together in his basement. You know the story. You invite friends, you get 3 or 4 people, then you got 20 people coming to your basement. And you're like, well, maybe we should do this thing for real. And we started Whole Strength CrossFit. That had to have been 2012, 2013-ish. And at the time, things were going well. And Ryan, I'm sure he has no problem in mentioning any of this stuff. We definitely learned from a lot of mistakes. And luckily, I got to take those lessons when I ended up moving back to my hometown and opening my gym. That was not the reason that I moved back. What the real reason is I went through a pretty nasty divorce. I had 3 kids at this time. And my wife and I at the time, it was probably as bad as you could get. There was about a year's period where I had no idea what the daily plan was for anything. I had 2 kids that were in school, one that was in daycare. We were living in the Nashville area, and everything was just kind of, there was not much good happening in life at that moment. So that's when I had this time to reflect and figure out, what did I want out of my life? And at this point, I think I'd been coaching CrossFit for about a year, officially, unofficially, probably close to 2 years. So I knew that I was getting a lot of satisfaction and fulfillment. I felt like I had a purpose when I was coaching, but I was not feeling much of that with my, corporate gig, as they say. So I wanted to figure out, what do I actually want? And I knew that I wanted to spend as much, or I wanted to be as accessible as possible to my own kids, to my wife, and not be burdened with the typical, like, keeping up with the Joneses type of, first world Western experience that we have. So I needed to figure out what that was and what was my absolute minimum requirement for survival. So I could start a gym and do what I love and not have to worry about making sure I make this amount per year. What is the bare minimum that I could survive on? So I wouldn't be worried about how much money is the gym taking in and how much do I have to pay for this stuff and that. It was a total reset. It was an absolute total back to zero. I met my wife now, and the plan was, we have 3 options, and you tell me which one you like. And one of them was, we can have an awesome wedding and then have an whatever honeymoon and then, go about our life, or we can have a so-so wedding, an awesome honeymoon, and then get on with our lives, or we can have a basically non-existent elopement for a wedding, no honeymoon at all, and then we open a gym and we buy a house. And she was all about the third option, so that's when I knew it was a winner. So we took off with that. We focused for about 3 years paying off some personal debt that I had that I did not know that I had, as sometimes happens when you're married. So we spent about 2.5, maybe 3 years paying off some personal debt. And I knew that I wanted my kids to go to Sumner County schools, which is just north of Nashville, kind of out of the city. And I knew that I wanted to work in Sumner County. Technically, Gallatin is where we're at, obviously. I wanted to work in Gallatin. I wanted my kids to be in Gallatin. I want to be done with the hour commute to work because I want to get back my time. 1 hour commute means 2 hours of driving, means probably close to 3 hours getting ready for work or winding down from work. So it's a lot of time suck. And I just wanted to be rid of all that. So we bought this really cheap fixer-upper house that had shag carpet and felt wallpaper all over it when we bought it. And I had about $13,000 saved up. And that's how I opened my first, well, still the same location, but opened the first gym. And here we are today.
Man, that's there's a lot of stuff baked into that. And I don't know exactly where to start, but coming all the way back, so you had your first kid when you were 16. And I think that, that's a unique and sort of trying thing. So how did that work? So you had your kid, and then what happened over the next few years? Did you start working? Were you in school? Like, what happened?
Well, when my girlfriend at the time got pregnant, we got into an argument, as young children happen to do. And we're on pretty good working terms now. So we can both look back at this and see how ridiculous it was. But she called my dad and told him that she was pregnant. And as I got home from work, the conversation ensued. And I just talked to my pastor about this a few weeks ago. I haven't really unhashed a lot of this for a long time. I haven't really thought about it. But I do remember his exact words. And he said, if you're going to go do things that men do, you're going to go be a man. And the next week I had my own duplex. I think the rent was $400 a month. I was making around maybe $600 to $700 a month. I was a manager at a Pizza Hut at 16 years old. So it shows you the level of responsibility that these corporate entities will give to children as well. It could be that, or maybe that you were like, for 16, you kind of had it together a little bit. Yeah, I don't know, man. Now that I look back at it, there's no way I would have done that to me. I mean, I had no idea what was going on, but we made it work. At the time I was in band, I was in marching band, and I had an opportunity to go to a local private school, basically fully paid for with music scholarships. But the one caveat was that I had to participate in their marching band program and their orchestral programs. And what that actually means is that's your full-time job. Working while you're doing that was going to be, I don't know how I was going to be able to do it. So I ended up not going to school. I decided to put that off. I was pretty close to signing up for the National Guard. And then once my son was born and he was in my arms, I couldn't leave. It's something that I don't want to say I regret, but it is something that I do value, service and all that stuff. And I wish maybe I would have gone through that, but we're there now. I think I was in that duplex for about a year. After I barely graduated. I didn't do any homework my second semester of high school, or my senior year of high school, because I just didn't have time. I would get out of school at 3:15 and I would drive straight to work. I would try to close pretty much every day just because I got to make as much money as possible, making it was like $8 something an hour. So, and I remember a pivotal point where I started thinking about a little bigger picture was when I got home from a Saturday night shift. It's like 2 a.m. and I pull into the driveway, and before I even open my car door, I hear my son crying from the inside of the house. And at the time he had colic. If there's any parents out there, they probably know what colic is. And basically your kid is pissed all the time because he has to fart all the time. That's a very non-science way to put it, but that's basically what's going on. And I didn't break down per se, but I was like, what in the hell have I done? And I said, well, maybe I should probably get a better job than Pizza Hut, maybe more career driven. And I had no qualifications for anything. So I started working like factory jobs and stuff like that. Moved to Mississippi for maybe 8 months or so, tried to get a job at Nissan. I was told I had a job at Nissan, but when you get down there, did not have the job at Nissan. So I don't know how that got jacked up. But anyway, made it work for a little while, and we had no friends. We had family down there, but no real, community for support, stuff like that. So we decided to move back to Tennessee. Started working at Gibson pretty soon after that. And that's where, it was a cool place to work, but there was constant overtime. And when you're young and you want to make money, whatever money you're making, you're spending. So if I'm working 40 hours a week. Well, this is my money. I'm just going to blow it. Oh, well, now we can work 60 hours a week. It's like, oh, cool. I have access to all this money now. I would just blow it anyway. And when the wheels started turning for like, what's the value of my time, was when my son went into middle school, which is sixth grade in this area. And when he went into sixth grade, I realized that I never took a day off to go eat lunch with him. And from kindergarten to fifth grade, I never took a day off, because it was like that. It's just work, more work, accrue more, buy this car, buy this house. And we kind of went through that process a few times. And it's, I think they call it lifestyle creep, where if you make this much money, you're going to spend like this much. And then it climbs, and then it's never ending. And at that moment, I was like, what kind of a jerk off dad am I? Because I felt guilty for asking for a day off. And that's when I was like, this can't be the long game that I'm playing. So the wheels started to turn for that. And that's when I started doing a real deep introspection of what are my basic needs and what is the most fiscally responsible way to meet those needs without using worldly expectations as a way to, guide my journey as a father or a husband or a business owner, whatever it is. And I don't even recognize that. Like, as I talk about myself, it doesn't seem real. It seems like a totally different person. Like, I can't believe that was me.
And there's a lot of evolution that happened in that time. So essentially 11 years. So when your boy was a sixth grade, that's about 11, I'm guessing, right around there. Yeah. So it took until that time where you were thinking, that's a good amount of time. And then you hit sort of a point of understanding where you realize that you're trading so much of your time for money. And how can you get out of that rat race? And there's a book called Your Money or Your Life. I don't know if you've read that book, but that book essentially, it breaks this sort of thing down, where you start to look at your life, and it's made up of time, and time is something you can't get back. Right? Time is like, it's a zero sum
forever.
Yeah. And if you put it into something, it's like, if that thing isn't a good thing to put it in, now you've really wasted your time, right? Not only do you not get the time back, but you did it doing something that was wasteful. So, I think that 11 years in, you have this aha moment. And when you did that, and you kind of were seeing that, okay, I need to spend more time with my son. What was the action that then, when you started getting into fitness and started looking at other things, or how did what did you change once you realized that?
I would say at that point was right around the time where my divorce was close to being like, we could speak to each other and decide, how are we going to do this? Neither of us had money to hire attorneys, and time heals almost everything. So we were separated for, I think, about a year and a half before we really started, outlining what we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. This is me and my ex-wife at the time. So as my son graduated fifth grade, he was in a metro school in Nashville, and neither of us wanted to stay in the area. And I said, well, this is, we have to set this up long-term for both of our sake and the kids' sake. We want Isaac, which is my oldest, we want him to go back to Sumner County schools, and we want him to have a fresh start in middle school. We don't want to change like in the middle of the school year. That's usually a pain in the butt for kids and parents. So at this point, my lease was going to be up, I think, in about 2 months. We had this apartment, and she moved out, and I was still responsible for this apartment. And as my son was starting sixth grade, I either had to find another place to live that was zoned for his school, that's the only way you can get into this district, is that you can't do these like, hey, do me a favor, can my kid go to this school? Like, it's just so populated in this area, and everybody wants to live here for the same reason. So it was that point when all these things were coming to a head. My divorce was going to be finalized probably in the next couple of months. I was writing up all the paperwork myself, and we didn't even really have to go to court. She agreed to this. We signed it, and it was pretty beneficial for both of us, and it held us accountable to those rules. Kids have to go to Sumner County schools. So that means that neither one of us can just up and move to wherever. And that keeps it safe for both of us. And that's when I started to realize, like, dang, I've been working my butt off for years. And for what? Like, for what? I had topped out at Gibson. I had topped out in my pay. The only way to get more pay was to go into upper management. And if you're bored, you can look up Glassdoor reviews on how upper management goes at Gibson. It's usually pretty comical. They don't stick around for very long. So I knew that wasn't an option. I was coaching CrossFit at the same time. I was coaching maybe 2, maybe 3 nights a week. So I had this thing, I was coaching, I was, having an impact on people, and they're having an impact on me. And Ryan and I are both trying to figure out, like, how can we do this and also pay our electric bill and our mortgage and stuff? And I said, there has got to be a way. And that's when I started thinking, well, if I have no personal debt, credit card, cars, house, whatever, that means I don't have to make that much money. It sounds like a ridiculous idea, but it's pretty basic. If I have a $1,000 mortgage as opposed to a $3,000 mortgage, well, that's $2,000 that I don't have to make to fulfill my needs for shelter. I'm trying to break it down to its absolute, like, foundational base, like 4 walls, a roof, running water, and a toilet, like all these things we need. But how can I make the financial obligation of those things as little as possible? So maybe I don't have to worry about working 10 hours overtime or feeling guilty about taking a day off to go eat lunch with my kids. If I can reduce my financial obligation and only make, like, what if I only made $20,000 a year? What would I have to, like, what could I get for that? And it can definitely be done. I think it seems like a lot of us, even now as gym owners, there's a lot of talk of, like, gym owners should be paying this or should be making this. And I agree. We are way undervalued for the work that we do. We're changing lives on the daily. You can't force people to value that, but I'm not going to wait around and, like, I'm not doing this unless I can make 6 figures. Like, I honestly don't care about any of that. At almost any point during the day, if my kids need me or my wife needs me, I don't have to ask for permission for anyone. And if that means that I don't have to get caught up in making 70, 80, whatever $1,000 a year, if I can do that and make whatever I need to make, that's good enough for me, because I've seen the other end of it. I was making really good money at Gibson, almost unlimited overtime there towards the end. And it's like cocaine. It's like, hey, here you go. It's free overtime, whatever you want. And yeah, you're bringing home money. You don't have time to spend it. And then when you want to have time to spend it, you feel guilty for taking off anyway. I've been at this point for close to 3 years, and we have I guess I would be full-time. Kelsey, our other coach, she's been active with Level Method stuff. She's our programming director. Both of us make decent money, and we have so much time to our hands. I just took a 5-day weekend. In a couple of weeks, she'll be gone for a week. And we have this kind of shared perspective that I've just shared with her. It's like, don't think about making more money per class you coach. Like, cause then you're just going to be in this game of, like, well, if I coach all the classes, literally every class, and I'm getting paid this much,
ceiling,
there's nowhere to go from that. There's absolutely nowhere to go. And I saw that whole strength, and I have to credit Ryan. We figured all this stuff out the hard way. And, neither of us were greatly prepared for kind of transitioning into that space. I think both of us are doing extremely well now. And I've learned so much from him and his experience and his shared failures and both of our failures. But I think, like you said earlier, like, these things have to happen in order to get to this point.
Yeah.
So yeah,
a couple things. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, which is money. Not in the sense I'm going to make $1 million, but figuring out how to get freedom. How do you get more freedom? And there's a book called, along the same line, anybody that's listening to this that's interested in sort of like financial freedom ideas, Your Money or Your Life is really good. But there's another not very well-known book. This is sort of like in the, the back room of the bookstore. And it's Early Retirement Extreme. So Early Retirement Extreme. And there's a website, you can go check it out. But this guy was like a physicist, and he's like super smart dude, and he has all these economic theories and stuff. But essentially, the whole idea is to make as much money as possible, but spend as little as possible. And even in a regular job, you make, if you can reduce your expenses low enough, you can essentially retire. Early retirement extreme. The idea is that you need 25 years of your yearly expenses to be able to live indefinitely. So once you get to that point, you can then live forever. You don't ever have to worry about it. So the less you have in terms of expenses, the faster you can get to that number, right? So you got to get to that number, and then you can live forever. And that's a world that I've always been very interested in, because I'm really personally very much about autonomy. I like the idea of not having to, I was in the army, so I learned the hard way about how authority and all this, and I had some experiences, and I learned that I needed to be on my own. And so I think it's a very interesting topic to me, because I think that people get wrapped up in this idea of needing to make more money and consumerism, of continuously needing to buy more stuff. I got to have this new thing, as opposed to maybe fixing something that's broken, and you go and learn how to fix it, and then you have it for another 3 years. And how much would it have cost if you had bought a new thing? So when did you bring these ideas with you? Like when you opened the gym, were you thinking from more of I'm kind of getting all crazy here, because this is exciting to me, but frugality. So in Level Method, we used to have the one of our main tenets was frugality, but we changed it to being thrifty. So we're thrifty. We're not necessarily frugal, because frugal has more to do only with money, but being thrifty has to do with time, resources, and all those sorts of things. So kind of going through your experiences, and you come out the other end, you've learned all these things, you've learned how valuable your time is. What did you do, or did you do anything different when you opened your gym in terms of all the equipment, or did you you didn't just go put everything on a credit card, right, for $100,000, and then so it's how did that all look for you, and how did that work?
The gym is an extension of my personal framework. There's absolutely no point in starting a business or a hobby or any activity, relationship, anything, unless it fits within the framework. If it doesn't, I'm not interested. That can make it difficult to make friends. It can make it difficult to keep friends sometimes. And this is something where people think they have to have every toy in the gym and every dumbbell, 10 of each dumbbell, 100 of each plate. And very specifically, I think it was around $13,000. I don't even know if I was going to make this work. I was checking Craigslist. I was talking to commercial real estate agents because I went through this on the periphery with Ryan, and without sharing too much information, I learned that there are certain things you don't want to do. And I know that it's a common business coaching point that says sometimes your debt can work for you for tax benefits and stuff like that. I didn't want to get into the minutia of that at all. I want zero debt. So I'll share some numbers. I found this. I looked at 2 properties, and it was going to cost roughly $10,000 just to move into the building. First and last month's rent, certain type of insurance, and common area maintenance, and all this crap. It was just it was really disheartening. I was like, how am I going to do this? I have a few barbells. I have a few plates for maybe a personal training session, but not a class. And I knew that I want to be able to at least coach a 4 or a 5 person class. So I started doing that out of my garage, and I had maybe 6 or 7 people come into my garage. They were paying me $100 a month. And we all knew, hey, the goal is to get into a commercial spot so we can grow this thing and make it official, make it a big community and all this stuff. And one day I'm at Gibson, I got my podcast going. I'm just scrolling, and I see this ad. It says, what did it say? It said 3 big bay doors, 2,400 square foot commercial. That's all it said. That's all the ad said.
You're perfect.
I was like, yeah, let's do that. So I went down and looked at it, and it's literally 3/4 of a mile from my house. It's less than a quarter mile from my kid's school. And it was a crap hole. It was an old body shop, maintenance, something or other. They had a paint booth in there. And the rent was so ungodly cheap. The concrete floor it's got some slants. The barbells roll a little bit in areas. We're talking maybe 75%. No, not even that. Let's do the math here. If I were to move out to a similar place in square footage into another area of a town, my rent would quadruple. So all I had to do was pay for, and I worked out a deal with him. If you're interested in starting a gym, you can work out all kinds of deals. Whatever it says on the paper, just throw it out the window. You can work out all kinds of stuff. I told the guys, like, I'll pay you 2 months of rent up front if I can have 2 months of rent for free after. So basically, I move in November. I don't have to pay rent again until I think April 1st. So that brings me down to, I think it was somewhere around $7,000. And I told myself, I am not going into debt, period. I don't care I don't care how minimal my setup is, but 2,400 square foot, there's, let's say about this much. I had about this much of it with rubber flooring. The rest of it was concrete. I bought 8 barbells and I would say about 10 or 12 plates, 10 or 12 45s, 25s, 15s, 10s, and I had 2 squat stands and that was it. Welcome to CrossFit Gallatin.
Well, I think there's a huge lesson in terms of like making your dreams come true and holding to your own personal standards, right? Yeah. So the personal law that you had was not going into debt, right? Like, I think so I was at one point about 18 grand in credit card debt that I had accumulated just over years. I got similar. Well, not really. So when I opened my first gym, me and Sean bought a gym from Lamar, who owned CrossFit Next Level Performance. And then we immediately moved to this massive gym. And then simultaneously, I'm like, I got a good idea. I'm going to go rent an apartment. And so then now I'm paying like $1,500 a month because it's in Southern California, it's super expensive. And I just accumulated all this debt and then went through the phase of basically just paying everything off. I lived in a van for a while. I did all this stuff and I lived in the back of the gym and poured everything in to get myself out of debt. And at that point, I realized I never want to be in debt again. It's a terrible thing because to even get to zero, you've got to, make a whole bunch of money that's going to this thing. So it's much better just to start at zero and stay there. So I totally resonate with the idea of refusing to go into debt. But I think a lot of people find it much easier to just load up with, credit cards and we'll pay it back later. And then you kind of live with this additional stress about how you're going to do this and what you're going to do. And when we're stressed in general, it limits creativity. It limits, freedom because you still have this thing in the back of your mind all the time. Yeah. So, you open your gym, bootstrap it, right? And then it's day one, you're going. What was the time frame for you to sort of get up and running, like in terms of like your systems and how you manage people and all of that? Like, what did that look like for you? Because we're kind of, depending on, we got a lot of different sorts of people that listen to this. I think it's an interesting frame because we have all sorts of different people that start their gyms in different ways. Some people, like, they've got money to start with and it's no problem. Other people don't have those resources, so they got to make it happen. And I think that it's an inspiring story to hear, $7,000, you started your gym. That's like, you don't really have an excuse, right? Who has an excuse?
So I had that money left over and I knew that I needed to add 4 more members to be profitable. We have never ever been in the red, ever.
Impressive.
And that's I'm not touting my own horn, but the reason why is because I held fast to that framework. I was not going to budge, not for any expectation. There's a gym down the road from us, CrossFit Hendersonville, an amazing gym, amazing. Like 8,000 square feet, every toy you can think of. So that was like our only competition. The people that run that gym are on the ball. And here I am, I've got a couple of squat stands and we officially, I signed the lease mid-November. It took me all of November and December just to clean it up. There was, I would say 50% of the light fixtures didn't even work. I had to paint and then I had to repaint because all the oil from all this crap that had built up, it just ruined the paint. So I had to prime it with some good primer and then paint it. And we rubberized half of the floor. We had 2 sets of squat stands, 8 barbells, a decent amount of plates for like a 5-6 person class. I had 5 or 6 people coming to my garage. And then January 1st, 2018, we started going to this place and we were Terraform Strength and Conditioning. We weren't even a CrossFit gym. I couldn't afford the affiliate fee. But we were doing CrossFit. Everybody knows how that is. Even the gyms that say they're not doing CrossFit, they're probably doing CrossFit, pretty close to it. But whatever way you want to go with it, if you don't want to pay an affiliate fee, all that stuff, that was $3,000 that I didn't have to pay, but I knew I wanted to coach people. I think by March, we had like 12 or 15 people. I'm horrible, still am horrible at like lead generation and all those things, mainly because when I hit a certain point where my needs are met and I'm also getting a fulfilling experience out of life, I check out pretty easy. So I was still working at Gibson at the time. So I had a 5 a.m. class and a 5 p.m. and a 6 p.m. Coach the 5 a.m. Yeah. So get ready. I coach the 5 a.m. At 6 a.m., I'm literally pushing people out the door because I have to drive to Nashville in an hour. And it's about, I think it was 48 miles one way. Nashville traffic is absurd. So every day it's basically a roll of the dice to see if I'm going to get to work on time. As soon as I get off work, I come home, I pick up the kids from whatever after school care thing is going on. And I don't even have time to go to home. I go straight to the gym. I coach the 5 p.m. and I coach the 6 p.m. I did that every day, every week. I did that every day, every week for about a year, but I ended up quitting Gibson June 1st. So I did that full-time gig and running the gym for about 6 months solid. And that's when I'm starting to be like, look, something has to give. I feel like I don't even know what's going on half the time because my brain and my body is just, it's like decomposing before my eyes. So the summer comes, and if you have young kids, you also know how expensive summer care is. So it was either pay roughly $250 to $300 a week to put my youngest two in summer care, or I open up my own summer camp. And that is literally what I did. In a matter of, I want to say, I actually ran a Facebook ad. I think that was probably early May. And once again, I knew that I needed to supplement my income probably close to around $600 to $700 a week in order for me to be meeting my needs, so to speak, that Gibson was providing. I had some serious overtime opportunities, but I was no longer taking those because I was running a gym, So originally I was going to do this summer camp for a couple of weeks, and you could sign up for week 1 or week 2. And I think I had like 7 or 8 kids sign up for week 1, 3 or 4 kids sign up for week 2. So we do week 1, and week 1 is wrapping up. Week 2 comes along. Everybody from week 1 wants to keep coming. I think I was charging maybe $120 a week for a kid. And we were doing like from 9 a.m. to 3 a.m. We would do like 3 workouts, activities a day. It was basically middle school age kids.
9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
That's like 3 a.m.
Yeah, I was like, dang.
No, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So we would have like our first workout at 9. But some kids, dude, they'd get there at 6 a.m. So I was coaching from 5 a.m. I had the 5 a.m. class, and then I have 2 or 3 kids get dropped off around 6 a.m. We wouldn't start doing, structured things until 9. We took a lunch break and all that stuff. Most of the regimented protocol was over by 3. And then I was basically just hanging out till my 5 p.m. class started. So I was literally at the gym from about 4:30 a.m. to about 8 p.m. every weekday in the middle of summer with a bunch of middle school kids, teaching them how to power lift. We weren't doing like crazy, like Olympic weightlifting or anything. We were doing like deadlifts, a little bit of bench press, some interval type stuff, gymnastic stuff. But like I said before, the first group of kids kept like re-upping. So we ended up doing it for 2 months. And just being completely honest, I probably had too many kids in there towards the end of it. I think I had maybe 13 or 14 kids plus my own hanging out at the gym, working out, just having a blast. And then summer camp was over. And at that time, we're getting members at the gym, and I have a little intro process that I was doing at the time. So it was making me enough money to provide for my needs, and all my personal obligations that I set for myself were also being met. So things were busy, but pretty good there towards, I guess, August. School started up, things slowed down, and then I was like, okay, I can breathe now.
It's interesting because it makes me think of that quote. I don't even know who said it, but necessity is the mother of invention. And so it's like this is an entrepreneurial 101, right? You have a problem, and you're like, okay, I either pay $1,200 a month for my kid, or I have everybody else pay me, and my kid's basically good to go. So it's just it's a pretty awesome solution to that problem.
I thought it was, and it just comes down, it's exactly what you said, is like, you have to get to the root of the problem. Almost all of these problems that we deal with now they're so top level, and they're almost like ideas that are fun to talk about. They're fun to argue about. They're fun to belittle other people about their positions on these problems. But most of the time, all the stuff is made up. All the dilemmas, all the, we've created most of our own problems. So if I go back to just focusing on the very like foundational problems of being a parent and being a husband, and those, if I operate a certain way with those problems, why wouldn't those practices translate to other areas of my life? And it's especially for consistency's sake, you don't have to turn anything on or off. It's just, this is how I operate, whether it's personal or business or whatever. And it's very liberating. And I don't have to modify certain things. It's just, we set this up years ago and this is how we operate. And it's worked out really well.
Yeah. So, tell me now, the gym's been, you've had time to really work out kinks, get things operating. And at what point did you bring Level Method into the mix?
Right. I would say we were open for a year. And then that's when Kelsey, our programming director, basically head coach now, she started an internship, which was a requirement for school. She was going to school for exercise science degree and all this. And at the time, I think Ryan had started doing Level Method shortly after her internship. And I would see his content, like level up this. And I was like, hey man, what's this all about? And we started talking about it. And Kelsey had been interning with us for about 3 months. Ryan provided his internship framework that he used at the gym. And I basically ripped off of that completely because it looked like a solid system. And it basically, her internship only required her to do a few hours of work for a couple of weeks for the entire semester. And I told her, I'm not interested in that. What I am interested in is bringing on a committed coaching partner that's bought into the ethos of this gym and all this fancy stuff. And luckily, she was 19 at the time. She don't know what the heck is going on. And she's like, hey, this is cool. This might be an opportunity for me instead of just like fulfilling an internship. So we were a few months into the internship, and then I hear about Level Method. I'm pretty sure her and I started testing ourselves, going through the e-learning. This is the old version of e-learning, really extensive. And I was like, man, this is top notch. This is good stuff. And we kind of created some mystery around what we're going to be doing soon. And I think you guys even encouraged that. It was probably from the time I had my first call with, it might have been you, I don't remember. From the time I had my first call with Level Method to about 2 months later, we had introduced it to the gym, and we were a newer gym. So I know that sometimes older established gyms that are a little hesitant about bringing on something new, they can run into some trouble with buy-in with members and stuff. But I firmly believe if you get your coaches on board and you understand what you're trying to do with this system, creating powerful moments and all these things, it seemed like it was way more than just like, without mentioning specific names, just signing up for a programming service. Mm-hmm. And that's always been really interesting to me whenever I, totally hit the reset button on life. I was like, what is the bigger picture for all of these things? We went through testing ourselves, and we got our overall levels. And then we did kind of the global assessment type implementation with the gym. And we had, I would say 90% of people were super excited about it, mainly because Kelsey and I were also excited about it. We were excited about it before they were, and we were committed. We were bought in, and hey, we're going to do things this way. We did have a couple of members that were from another gym that had recently come to our gym that were hesitant in the beginning. But after that first week of doing assessments, they were all converted. They loved it because it was that mentality of like, some people will never, I hate to say never, but the likelihood that some people will never RX a workout is pretty high. And, I was kind of a skinny guy. I could move around on the bar a lot. I couldn't lift a whole lot of weight, but I would say that I was in pretty dang good shape. And I would say, I didn't have to lose 100 pounds to gain a bunch of capacity. So there's a lot of people out there that there's a lot of work involved to just show up to the gym and do like box push-ups, So it gave those people that were really struggling with just like basic movements, like we could work out together side by side. Like, man, that was a doozy. I'm over here doing brown, and this lady over here doing yellow. We're both killing it. We're both sweating our butts off. And that I hate the word inclusion, but it is very applicable to this whole scenario. And I have members at the gym that drop into other gyms that have the only experience they have is level method. And then they'll drop into a gym that doesn't do level method, and they're like, what the hell is this? It's just chaos. Yeah. And it's insanity. And I look back now and I'm like, golly, it was so much work as a gym owner, trying to create programs that are periodized in a way that are fun, that are engaging, that encourage progress. And it's just like, that's like when I was talking to Sean, when we were onboarded, you could become a level method gym, but like not do the programming. Mm-hmm. And I was telling Sean, and he told me after, I was like, I don't think you should be allowed to be a level method gym unless you do the programming. It's just asinine to me. Like, what for? And he said, well, actually now that's kind of the thing. I was like, good, because I know a lot of coaches get really hung up and prideful about their programming, and because it's kind of like their identity. And I was ready to outsource that really early on, because I didn't wrap up my identity with like how many sets and reps I wrote down on a board. That's not what it was about to me. It was about staying after class and talking to a lady who has never done a push-up in her life. And she feels like she can't keep up with her kids. And she feels like maybe she's not the best wife to her husband, or maybe she's not the best employee to her company. And that's what makes you a coach. The programming works. I know for a fact it works, because I'm in the best shape of my life, and I've been doing this for a long ass time. And I have people in the gym that have been doing CrossFit for longer than me, and they are in the best shape of their life because of level method programming. And especially now with the incorporation of Chip, we don't even have to do anything. Our coach, Kelsey, she does a Facebook Live every Sunday afternoon. It's about 8 to 10 minutes. And it goes over basically what you do, in kind of the monthly thing. So that it promotes some engagement from our Facebook community. And the coaching notes are in Chip. If there's any question, a lot of times they don't even ask me, because the answer is in the coaching notes. So then we go all the way back, we make a big circle and we talk about time. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much that I don't have to worry about. It's just all done. And it's done for my coaches. It allows my coaches to have, the opportunity to have those coaching moments without being, well, how am I going to scale these pull-ups for this person today? It's done. You don't have to think about it. And it provides a more personal opportunity instead of the math of doing a good workout. I have to thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things here. Number one is we have, a number of gyms in the Legion, right? We're like right around 200 at this point. And there are varying degrees with which people have integrated and used the level method. In your gym, you're in the top, 5%. You're like, you guys are way up there. You do everything really well. Power of moments is on point. The systems are in place. And, you had mentioned, time, being able to save time, and those systems and structures. And that's one of the things that we do like to make sure that we give gyms, but so many people don't use the systems. So because there is quite a lot, and this is something we've run into, is the complexity sometimes of what we provide. I mean complexity in there are many different tools. We got the success plans, we got the onboarding system. There's like all these different things, the programming and everything. So, when you're looking at from a gym owner standpoint, and you can sort of plug and play, you have change little things to fit how you do things. And I think that a lot of people sometimes think that that's not allowed or that you shouldn't be doing that. But I mean, that is totally how it should be. It should be tweaked. So tell us a little bit about like your view on taking systems, but then modifying them or adjusting them based on how you see things should be in your culture or your community.
Right. I know that we have done just very specifically, we've done the global assessments twice. The first, so we have the initial global assessment just for being the new gym. And then I know that Level Method does it periodically throughout the year, maybe like once a quarter-ish. And usually it's 3 weeks of assessment. For us, the 3 times that we did it that way, typically by the middle of the second week, we're seeing attendance drop off, especially if, there's 2 options. Like if the first week you have somebody that levels up a lot, and then we're testing the same thing the next couple of weeks, but they're in different order because some people come on different days. It makes sense. But for us, we were seeing attendance come down. People were not getting as excited about testing, and just the overall excitement about seeing where you are again was not sustaining through the 3 weeks. It's a little burnout. And honestly, from a coach's aspect and approving levels, getting pictures and all that stuff, it's a lot of work. Kelsey is she's phenomenal at doing this. And I think that once we changed that system a little bit, it started to work even better. So what we do is we do a week of testing, and then we do a week of regular programming, and then we do another week of testing, and then we're done. We have competitions for who has the biggest single category level up. And then biggest overall level up. It's like a gift card to a local restaurant here in town. So it keeps people wanting to level up. And it's like me, I've recently hit red 1 in squat endurance and nice. I think front squat. And honestly, if I had to pick those things, I get more fired up about than testing lactic tolerance again, or the rowing test. The rowing test is horrendous. It's just not my thing, but that's okay. But by changing that it's just a little tweak. And I think we've been doing that the last 3 times that Level Method has done their global assessment. When the world shut down and quarantine hit us, here in Tennessee, we were shut down for about 2 months. Some places are shut down for a year. And with the programming that you guys put out that was body weight centric, I'm wanting to say that we used most of that programming. And for some people, I loaned out everything in the gym. I emptied the gym. We had no barbells, plates, rowers, everything. I loaned it all out. So for the people that wanted to, get some heavy lifts in, we were able to just go into that spreadsheet. And what we would do is we would copy all the levels. We would put it into Wodify. That's what we're using. And people knew what level they needed to do, and they would post in a Facebook group. We would do a few Zoom classes. Those never really took off. It was weird. But we could modify all those things. I think the Level Method onboarding process that you guys have listed, I'm pretty sure we do those pretty close to how it's written. We have kind of a SOP that we do with the little clipboard, and we have levels. That way, if someone else needs to take an intro session, we can just take the clipboard for that person. We can write stuff down as we're going, then we can get an overall level. I know there's way more opportunities that you guys have laid out in all of the Level Method, like the success stuff, all those things that we haven't utilized. Mainly because, going back to what I was saying before, once I hit a place where it's got a good flow, I don't really want to mess it up too much. Not that it would.
But you don't want to mess with it. I mean, that totally makes sense.
Needs are being met. And I would say probably now, in the past month or so, I've kind of got this new fire about me for the next level, for what business ownership, personal development, whatever that is. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely there. And I need to use the resources that you guys provide maybe a little better.
Yeah, it's I think like the success of Level Method, it all comes back to the leadership, right? It's always a reflection of leadership in the gym, the coaches, how bought in people are with the processes, and the systems are in the same way. So we have different systems. And once you see it in practice, so if you do a success plan, you see it in practice and you see the power of it, then you can kind of get excited about it, maybe play with it a little bit, see how it would work. But again, it's all like customizable. This is the thing, is like you can use this or parts of this or take that, because the way people onboard gyms or onboard new clients, the way gyms onboard new clients, it varies, right? And we have different ways of doing these things. But I think that the systemization aspect is the key. And that's one thing with Level Method that we're very big on, is figuring out what we can give in terms of systems to make life just easier, to save time and to do all those things. And I'm kind of making this a pitch about Level Method. Most people listening to this probably already doing Level Method. So
I'm okay with it, man.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of awesome stuff, man. I think like your journey is a very unique one, and it's awesome to see, just that you can make it work, right? Even with a small budget. And now if anybody looks at your gym, I'm sure it doesn't seem like that's how the gym started. Like that video that you guys did, you did a series of videos. I mean, these are amazing. Like the gym looks incredible, and like the people are super excited, and it's very cool to see. So, wrapping this up, any, thoughts for a gym owner who's maybe having some, I won't say struggling, but maybe with the Level Method or in gym ownership, like how they should take a step back, or what they should do in order to figure out what they really want? That's something that we've talked a lot about, is sort of the requirements for your life and your gym, and knowing what that is. And where would someone start? What advice do you have for somebody?
I know that figuring out, what you want can be really tricky, especially because most of us draw what we think we want or need from our immediate circle, whether it be friends, parents, siblings, coworkers. They infer their needs and wants onto us, and we don't even realize it. And we adopt other people's principles because we think it will work and we think it will feed our needs. But maybe if there's something in your mind that you feel guilty that you can't do, what would enable you to be able to do that and live with, I don't want to say no stress, but I'm able to do almost anything I want to do at any point in time. So, and I can only do that because I have an absolutely amazing team that have bought into the same principles. Because these conversations that we're having right now, I know people get sick and tired of it in my own, but I am super, and sometimes I feel like I'm by myself. Like, am I the crazy one? But I know that Kelsey has seen what I'm able to do, and I want her to be able to do those things. I want Shelby and Aaron to be able to do those things. And it's kind of like a constant running conversation. What do you want out of this life? And what is the minimal viable product for being able to implement that whole thing? And right now I live in a house that was built in 1972. You see that flooring? Mm-hmm. That's the rest of my house is subfloor. That table, this kitchen table, it's like a $300 Amazon table. I have not had a kitchen table in 4 years because I don't give a shit about kitchen tables. I just don't care about all these things. But we get caught up in comparatives to other people. And what I do want is be able to wake up, take my kids to school in a low stress way. We get up, we eat breakfast, we chit chat, we go off to school. I go coach some PT clients. Maybe I coach class, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't coach class all week. Maybe Kelsey handles it. And then maybe I give her a break next week. I get to go to every football game my kid has. I get to go to every track meet. I get to go to every art show because I know what I want. And it's that time. I want that absolute sovereign time. And if that means that, maybe we don't have 3 afternoon classes, maybe we only have 2. Right now we have 1 because our 5 a.m. and our 7 a.m. class are bumping. And we were having, 6 to 8 people in our afternoon class. So we combine the 5 and the 6 p.m. to a 5:30. And now sometimes we get 8 to 10, maybe 12. It's still really doable. And guess what? It's 1 hour out of the afternoon rather than 2. And if you talk like this around your members, they'll also see what's going on, because I talk about this stuff all the time because it's so important, not just for a gym owner, but just for a person, especially first world people that get to do all these fancy things, but most of them turn into handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
And they just get stuck with it. So figure out exactly what you want, figure out how to provide the basic level of needs, not America's version of needs. And then it frees up so much resources. Time and money are the two that really seem to matter the most. I just leave it at that.
I love it, dude. That is a great place to step off. And I want to thank you so much, man, for sharing your wisdom and your experiences. And I'm sure we'll be in touch. We'll keep it moving forward. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.